Ye Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. So thank you once again, dear devotees, for kindly being present here today. It's a Monday morning for those who are in the US, and it is Monday night for those of us who are in India. And we are continuing our series on Śrī-Upadeśāmṛtam. This is a details of Srila Rupa Goswami's Upadeshamritam. We have managed to cover almost 3 verses. Today we will be concluding the 3rd verse. So we'll offer a quick pranam mantra to Sri Rupa Goswami. Jnane Saraswati Rupam Vyasarupam cha Shikshane Natye Bharatarupam Tam Shri Rupam Pranamamyaham. Jnane Saraswati Rupam. Unto him who is Saraswati Rup, personification of Saraswati Devi in the domain of knowledge. Vyasarupam cha Shikshane. And unto him who is personification of Vyasadeva in the domain of imparting instructions. And Natye Bharatarupam Tam, and unto him who is Bharatarup, personification of Bharat Muni in the domain of drama. Shri Rupam, unto that Shri Rupa Pranamamyaham, I offer my humble obeisances. It is only because of the mercy of Srila Rupa Goswami that we are today able to study this Upadeshamritam and be able to have an idea of how to progress on the path of bhajan. Often a question is asked that many previous commentators have already written commentaries on Sri Upadeshamritam. There is Sri Radharaman Goswami, Srila Bhaktivinode Thakura, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura, and obviously there is Srila Prabhupada. So why is there a need for speaking something fresh or speaking something new while discussing Sri Upadeshamritam? Why not simply just read their commentaries and then in this way understand Upadeshamritam exactly as they have presented? Why add something to it? So this question is asked frequently. So why do we, in every generation, why do we add newer realizations to the writings of the previous acaryas? So this question is very pertinent. It is important because we call ourselves Hare Krishna movement. Movement means things should move. Otherwise, we will become Hare Krishna stagnant in a few generations. So in order to prevent our movement from becoming stagnant, it is important that there should be some fresh realizations in every generation. In the 9th or 10th century, in India, on the western side of India, there appeared a poet, a very brilliant poet. His name was Sri Jayadeva. This Jayadeva is different from the Jayadeva Goswami that we know. So Sri Jayadeva, he appeared in the 9th century in the western part of India in Maharashtra. He was extremely interested in poetics and he wanted to write a manual on poetry. So he started composing his manual on poetry, and when he started composing his manual on poetry, the learned scholars of his day and age, they asked him a question They said everything has already been written by the previous authorities. If you write something more, there is a possibility that you may end up spoiling their valuable realizations. So better it is you stop right now. Don't try to use your pen to write new realizations on this subject matter. Everything has already been done. But Sri Jayadeva continued and he wrote his work. His work was named Candralokah. Candralokah means moonlight, or the moonlight, the effulgence of moonlight. And this work became so popular that it is said that Srila Baldev Vidyabhushan also studied this work and wrote a commentary upon this work, Candralokah. So it is one of the standard manuals on poetics in India. But in the beginning of Candralokah, he wrote a verse in which he specified why is he writing new realizations in his generation when the previous acaryas have almost discussed everything. So here is his verse, and he says something very beautiful. Sri Jayadeva says, Na shankaniyam etesham matam etena dushyate kintu chakshur mrigakshinam kajjaleneva bhushyate. He says, Na ashankaniyam. Dear readers, dear viewers, na ashankaniyam. Please don't have this doubt. What doubt? Etesham matam etena dushyate. The doubt that the opinions of previous great acharyas will be spoiled by these explanations of mine. Please don't have this doubt. Sri Jayadeva says, don't have this doubt. Why? He says, in fact, their opinions will be highlighted and glorified even more. And then he gives an analogy. Chakshur mrigakshinam kajjaleneva bhushyate. Just as the eyes of beautiful, doe-eyed ladies appear even more beautiful when a useless black substance named kajal is coal, that black colored substance which you apply on the eye, is applied on them. So what he was saying is that my realizations are extremely useless. They are like kajal. Dhāmeśvara Prabhu, if you apply kajal on a paper, what happens to the paper?
You just have black marks.
Yes. If you apply kajal on the wall, what happens to the wall?
Black marks on the wall.
So if you apply kajal anywhere in the world, it leaves a stain. But there is one place on which if you apply kajal, then it makes that particular object even more beautiful. And that place is the beautiful eyes of beautiful ladies. If you apply kajal in that particular location. So Sri Jayadeva said, so my realizations may be as useless as kajal. But the writings of the previous acharyas are like the beautiful eyes of beautiful ladies. And my purpose in applying kajal to these eyes is to highlight these eyes even more so that they appear more beautiful. So dear devotees, it is in this spirit that in every Upadeshamritam class, some new realizations are spoken. That these realizations may be as useless as kajal, but when they are applied to the eyes of the writings of Srila Rupa Goswami, beautiful eyes. So I hope that the writings of Sri Rupa Goswami will be highlighted even more in a much more beautiful manner. So this is the hope with which these realizations on Śrī-Upadeshamritam are being spoken. We are at the end of the third instruction. Utsahan nishchayat dhairyat tat tat karma pravartanat sangat tyagat sato vrtteh shadbhir bhakti prasiddhyati. Bhakti is perfected by these six, namely Utsahat, enthusiasm, Nishchaya, determination, dhairyat, perseverance, tat karma pravartanat, execution of those acts that are favorable to bhakti. Sanga tyagat, giving up unfavorable association. This we did last time. And sato vrtteh is a single phrase. Vrtteh sata, following the conduct of the sat. Sat means sadhus. So bhakti is greatly enhanced by following the conduct of the previous sadhus. Now, sato vrtteh means following the vritti, following the conduct of the sat. What is the meaning of sato vrtteh? Satam vrtteh. By emulating the vritti. Vritti is conduct, lifestyle of the sat. Sat means sadhus. The term sat has many meanings. One meaning of sat is that which exists. Anything which exists is known as sat. Therefore, Bhagawan, who exists forever, is called Sat Chit Anand. So sat is existence. But sat also means sadhu. So according to the Amar Kosh, one of the meanings of the term sat is sadhu, or a saintly person. Therefore, when Srila Rupa Goswami says sato vrtteh, the meaning that he wants to indicate is by following the vritti, lifestyle or conduct of the sat. Sat means sadhu. So here the meaning of sat is sadhu. And vritti also means vartan. Vartan means conduct or lifestyle. So this is also mentioned in Amar Kosh. Vrittir vartana jivane. So lifestyle, sustenance or conduct, this all gets denoted by the term vritti. So sato vritteh, by following the vritti, the conduct, the lifestyle, the means of sustenance that is adopted by sato, by the sadhus. So this is sato vritteh. So basic meanings of the two terms, sato vritteh. Now it is extremely essential that those of us who are on the path of bhakti should understand that we are not orphans. We don't have to reinvent the wheel in every generation. Because if we try to reinvent the wheel in every generation, then we will end up absolutely achieving nothing. The previous acaryas, the sadhus, have painstakingly researched the entire path of bhakti, and they have presented their conclusions already in their literature. They have considered the subject matter from all angles, and they have given the most valuable conclusions to us so that we can follow. We simply have to follow the path which has been shown by them. But still there are certain individuals who, due to nastikya, due to some sort of subtle atheism within them, they do not wish to follow the royal highway that has been given by the previous sadhus. They want to invent their own path, dear devotees. And therefore, this, sato vritti becomes difficult for them. So, in his commentary to this verse, Sri Radharaman Goswami says something. He says, sato vritte sadacharat. He says, sato vritte means by following the good conduct of the sadhus. Very simple meaning of sato vritte. Sat achar. Sad achar means following the good conduct of the sadhus. Srila Bhaktivinode Thakura starts explaining. He says, Sat vritti. साधुगण ये सदाचार अनुष्ठान કર્યા છે एवं ये वृत्तिर द्वारा जीवन निर्वाह કર્યા છે. So he says, what is sato vritte? The good conduct that the sadhus follow, as well as the means of livelihood that they adopt, is known as sato vritti. So two meanings of sato vritti: conduct and livelihood. As I said, the Amar Kosh gives both these meanings. So Srila Bhaktivinode Thakura has also taken these meanings and said first is how do they conduct themselves in day-to-day life, and second is how do they earn their livelihood. So this is known as sato vritti. Then he specifies two broad types of sadhus. One is the renunciant and one is the householder. Then he says grihatyagi vyaktira bhiksha u madhukuri evam grihastha bhaktera swavarnashrama vidhi sammata vritti ihai sadvritti. He says to beg alms and perform madhukari is sato vritti for a renunciant who has left home, and to follow the duties of varna and ashram is sato vritti for a householder. So if a renunciant has left his home, then such a renunciate should completely depend upon the society for all of his needs of livelihood. So that is sato vritti. Now such a renunciant should not start his own home or start living in a dedicated home, because the renunciant is supposed to be dependent upon the society. That austerity a renunciate is supposed to take. That is why they are in that particular ashram. And a householder can have a fixed home. Therefore, the householder is called grihastha. Grihastha means situated, fixed in griha, in a house. A sannyasi is not known as grihastha. A sannyasi doesn't have a fixed house. A vanaprastha is somebody who has prastha, who has departed for the forest. So therefore, the only person who is allowed to have a house is the grihastha, a dedicated house. And then a grihastha should follow the respective duties of their varna and ashram. This is what Srila Bhaktivinode Thakura says. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura gives a slightly longer commentary. He says, Bhakti vyatita anya margatraya asat, arthat nitya nahe. So he says the three paths besides bhakti, which we have discussed in previous talks, he always highlights these three paths: karma kand, jnana kand, and other non-devotional paths. They are asat. They are not sato vritti. They are asat vritti. They are non-eternal. Here he takes the meaning of sat as existence or eternality. So they are asat. They are non-eternal. Then he quotes a verse from Bhagavatam. Yasyasti bhaktir bhagavatya kenchana sarvair gunaistatra samasate suraha harava bhaktasya kuto mahadguna manorathena sati dhavato bahi. He says that the Srimad Bhagavatam has already said that one-pointed devotees of Hari are equipped with all sato vritti, all good qualities of the gods, and non-devotees don't have any good qualities. Therefore, he says, Bhakti marga hi sadhur vritti, tahader anugamana i bhakti path. So bhakti is the true sato vritti. Bhakti is the true path of the sadhus, and following the path of the sadhus is what the path of bhakti is all about. So basically, according to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura, sato vritti means to follow the path of bhakti, as shown by the previous sadhus. Very simple. Now, as I said, there are some people who don't want to follow this path. Why should I follow the path of the previous acaryas? In the new generation, I need a new path. To such people who are thinking in this manner, Sri Jiva Goswami narrates a very humorous story. Sri Jiva Goswami, in the Bhakti Sandarbha, in the Bhagavad Sandarbha, he narrates a very beautiful story. And Sri Jiva Goswami says something. What does Sri Jiva Goswami says? He quotes a nyayah. This nyayah is called Ghatta, kuti-prabhata nyayah. So what is the meaning of Ghatta, kuti-prabhata nyayah? Ghatta means, Ghatta kuti means toll tax collection office. And prabhata means trying to avoid it till the morning. Nyayah. So we will see what is the meaning of this. It's a very humorous story he gives. Sri Jiva Goswami narrates that once there was a merchant, and this merchant, he was walking through a village. While walking through the village, this merchant saw a royal highway which could easily allow him to cross over to the next village to his destination. Now, if he takes the straight path, he saw that there was a toll collection office. And on that toll collection office, there is a person obviously who will collect toll from him. So there will be the king's toll collector who will collect toll from him. Now this merchant thinks, why should I take the royal path? Let me instead take the long, round path through the village, through the forest. So instead of taking the straight path, he takes the long path in order to avoid the toll. So he walks on that long path throughout the night. And after walking on the long path throughout the night, then finally early morning, he thinks that he has avoided the toll tax. And suddenly, just as he comes back to the main path, by the will of providence, suddenly that he happens to meet the toll tax collector again, who asks him, hey, who are you? Did you pay the toll? So this merchant says, I'm sorry, I did not know about the toll. So you must pay the toll if you have not paid. So early in the morning, he was made to pay the toll, even though he took the long path in order to avoid the same toll. Dear devotees, this is the condition of individuals like myself who don't want to follow the royal highway of perfection given by the previous acaryas. They want to concoct their own path, which will be long and complicated, and in the end will prove my superiority, and which will save a lot of effort. But in the end, it takes this more amount of effort, and plus you have added distress at the end of the path. So dear devotees, this is narrated in the Bhagavad Sandarbha by Srila Jiva Goswami. Sri Jiva Goswami says, Ghatta kuti-prabhata nyayah, trying to avoid the Ghatta kuti, the toll tax office, but prabhata, in the morning, ending up with the toll tax officer. So dear devotees, let's not try to become like this. We should all remember that the straight path of progress is already there, and although it may exact some toll from us, but the acaryas have tried to make it as easy as possible. And if we try to find another path, it will not only become long, also more difficult and more painful. Dear devotees, therefore Sri Rupa Goswami says that following the path of the sadhus is like following the time-tested royal highway. Actually, sato vritti is one of the 64 limbs of bhakti. Where does Sri Rupa Goswami say that? Sri Rupa Goswami says limb number 4 of 64. Sadhu vartma anuvartanam. What is now? When we translate, we have to go right to left. Anuvartanam, following the vartma, path of sadhus. So anuvartanam, following the vartma, the path of the sadhus. So sadhu vartma anuvartanam. So sadhu path following, basically following the path of the sadhus. Now this is limb number 4. Sri Rupa Goswami says, if one simply has this mindset that I will follow the path of the previous sadhus and I will not engage in any mental concoction on how to progress in bhakti, that itself becomes one of the 64 limbs of bhakti. Simply this determination. So Sri Rupa Goswami quotes a beautiful verse. He says, Samrigyah shreyasam hetuhu pantha santapavarjitah anavapta shramam purve yena santah pratasthire. He says, Samrigyah shreyasam hetuhu pantha. He says one should seek out that particular path in life which first causes the attainment of the highest benefit. In our case, the highest benefit is Krishna Prem. So one should seek out that path which causes us to attain Krishna Prem first. Second, Santapa Varjita. It is free of suffering. And third and most important, anavapta shramam purve yena santah pratasthire. And that path which was effortlessly traversed upon by the previous sadhus. These three are the conditions which we should ensure. When we are following the path of bhakti, we may be members of any institution. Within the institution, we may be disciples of any guru. Between the disciples of a guru, we may be members of any subgroup of disciples. We should ensure whatever path is being taught to us by our gurujanas, by the institution, by the seniors, it lives up to these three conditions. What are the three conditions? First, does the path lead to the attainment of the highest benefit? Dear devotees, sometimes what happens is a devotee is engaged by their seniors not in the highest benefit, but in some secondary benefit. So the devotee should understand properly what is the highest benefit that I will attain by following this path that is being shown to be by my seniors. So it's very important to understand that the true senior, the true guru will show us a path which will lead us to prema prayojanam. Prema prayojanam is the final aim of life, which is Shri Krishna Prem, or love of Bhagawan Shri Krishna. Second, this path should be free of santap. You don't have to take excess suffering for this path. In fact, the path is joyous. And third is anavapta shramam, effortlessly. Purve, previously, santah pratasthire. The sadhus have traveled upon it. See how easy it is. This is what Srila Rupa Goswami's recommendation is. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna has said, Susukham kartum avyayam. Path is full of happiness, easy. Some people make it ku-dukkham kartum avyayam, full of miserable suffering. So dear devotees, it is not at all about miserable suffering. The path is easy. It has been traversed upon by the previous sadhus, and there is no suffering involved. Anybody who is presenting the path of bhakti as some sort of military suffering to us has not understood the path of the previous sadhus. Please try to understand. Srila Rupa Goswami, Srila Jiva Goswami, the 6 Goswamis have never in their writings presented the path of bhakti as some sort of suffering that the devotee has to take upon themselves. Read all the literature of the 6 Goswamis. You will never find them saying that bhakti equals suffering. Unfortunately, sometimes when new devotees are introduced to bhakti, they are given this incorrect idea of bhakti, that bhakti means you will have to endure a lot of suffering. And unless Krishna gives you a lot of suffering, how will you get purified? So devotees are told like this. So purification is by following the limbs of bhakti. Krishna is not the policeman in the sky who purifies his devotees by giving suffering to them. Okay, so many people have this incorrect idea of Bhagawan, that Bhagawan is the punisher in the sky who is waiting for an opportunity. Oh, Dhāmeśvara Prabhu, today you made a mistake. Now I'm ready with my stick. Tomorrow morning, early morning, you are going to get your reaction. And consider it as my merciful purification. So, this is not the Bhagawan we believe in. Our Bhagawan is the one who is Dinabandhu. Dinabandhu means he is the friend of those who are distressed. He is not the policeman of those who are distressed. So if we call him Dinabandhu, then we should understand that he doesn't act like a policeman in the sky. So coming back to the point, this is the royal highway of progress which has been time tested by the previous sadhus. And the sadhus were able to pinpoint this path because the sadhus were in very close contact of Bhagavan's own heart. The sadhus understand what Bhagavan wants for the devotees. And since the sadhus understand Bhagavan's heart, therefore the sadhus have presented what Bhagavan wants in their writings. Actually, this path is nothing but Bhagavan's own path. that has been given to us through the via medium of sadhus. Bhagawan himself admits this in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Sadhavo hridayam mahyam sadhunam hridayam tvaham madanyattena jananti naham tebhyo managapi. Sadhavo hridayam mahyam. The pure devotee is always within the core of my heart. Sadhunam hridayam tvaham. And I am always in the heart of the pure devotee. Madanyattena jananti. My devotees do not know anything else but me. Naham tebhyo managapi. And I do not know anyone else besides them. So Bhagavan already understands the sadhus understand Bhagavan, and therefore the path shown by sadhus is actually the path shown by Bhagavan. And anybody who denies the path shown by sadhus is making the mistake of denying the path that has been shown by Bhagavan through the via medium of the sadhus. Now, why should we follow the particular path of sadhus? What should be our motivation in following the path of the sadhus? Let's say, if I say today that Dhāmeśvara Prabhu, in the 21st century, we should redefine all the Shastras of Bhakti and begin from scratch. So let's have a completely new definition of Bhakti. We will leave aside the existing definition, Anyabhilashita Shunyam. We will leave that definition aside and we will carve a new definition. Dhāmeśvara Prabhu, can we carve a new definition of Bhakti that will supersede the existing definition? Please tell me.
No.
If we try for hundreds of years with all the resources available to us, this simple verse, Anyabhilashita Shunyam, cannot be perfected, cannot be bettered. It is already time tested. It has been tested by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And till today, nobody was able to better the verse. The research was already done. There is a reason why we should follow the path of the sadhus. The reason why we should follow the path of the sadhus is because the path is free of 4 defects. Dhāmeśvara Prabhu, what are the 4 defects that we have heard?
Imperfect sense perception, cheating, illusion, and making mistakes.
All right. So these 4 are specified in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Brahma pramad vipralipsa karana patava arsha vigya vakye nahi dosha aisa. 4 defects: mistakes, illusion, cheating, and defective perception do not occur in the sayings of the authoritative sages. In the writings of the sadhus, these 4 are not there. Dear devotees, we often use these terms very casually. Brahm, pramad, vipralipsa, karanapata. Illusion, mistake, cheating, and defective senses. Let's try to understand each and every one of them. And these 4 defects that are not present in the path of the sadhus. But if we try to redefine the path, these 4 mistakes will immediately creep in. For example, today if I say in the 21st century, we should only focus upon chanting the holy name. We should not focus upon smaran. Smaran is very advanced. It is not for today's century. Today's century, only kirtan. So if I erase the path of smaran from the path of bhakti, then what will happen is I am concocting my own path. And what will happen thereafter is these 4 defects will enter into my particular path. But the path of the previous acaryas, which includes all types of bhakti, including smaran, is free of these 4 defects. What is the first defect? The first defect is called Brahma, illusion. What is illusion? Illusion means a person does not understand what the reality is and mistakes it to be something else. That is known as illusion. For example, a person sees a rope in the night. doesn't understand that it is a rope, doesn't know what the actual thing is, doesn't know that it is a rope, and mistakes it or falls into illusion and thinks that it is a snake. So when we don't know what is the reality, and when we make it up to be something else, that is known as Brahma. This can also happen in the field of bhakti, dear devotees. It happened. There were some individuals who said that any devotion unto Krishna, even out of hatred, is the best devotion. Sri Rupa Goswami saw this, that this basically is Brahma. Brahma means illusion. A person who says that haters of Krishna are also performing devotional service has not understood the reality. Sri Rupa Goswami, after consulting Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, removed this Brahma. So this is Brahma. The first mistake, not understanding what the actuality is and mistaking it to be something else. Second is Pramad. Pramad means we understand what the reality is. We understand what the correct thing is. Even after understanding what is correct, we make mistakes due to inattention. It's very important to understand. Why do we make mistakes? Due to inattention. For example, a person has seen on the previous night that this was not a snake, this was a rope. Next night, he is walking on the same street. He sees the same rope in the dark. Again, he mistakes it for a snake. Now he knew that actually it was a rope, not a snake, because he has previous experience. But he still ends up making the same mistake. Why? Because of inattention. He forgot what he had learnt yesterday. This, dear devotees, is known as Pramad. This is the difference between Brahma and Pramad. In Brahma, you are not even aware of what is the reality. In Pramad, you are aware of it. But due to inattention, we end up making a mistake. So this is the difference between Brahma and Pramad. So Pramad means, even in the field of bhakti, a person sometimes forgets some siddhantas. And because of forgetting some siddhanta, they may end up writing something which is incorrect, which they had previously learned but forgotten. So therefore, such a person is not capable of guiding others. Third is vipralipsa, a very common tendency, cheating tendency, that a person knows what is the truth and a person knows that he is making a mistake, but he still deliberately makes a mistake in order to cheat others. This is vipralipsa, cheating tendency. Many times in the path of bhakti, some people form their own cults because of cheating tendency. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura had pointed out that there was a personality who started his own cult. He did not chant the Mahamantra which was Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave. Instead, he made up his own Mahamantra. And in his Mahamantra, he included names of all the various deities, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityanand Prabhu, and he made up his own Mahamantra. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said this was a deviation from the standard path. Why did he do that? The reason for doing that is to distinguish oneself. And trying to distinguish oneself, trying to attain some pratishtha, man, labh or puja, is categorized under vipralipsa, cheating tendency. And if nothing else, the overarching defect is karna patav, defective senses. So no matter how expert we become, some defect will always be there in the senses. But these four defects are not present in the writings of the previous acaryas who have been blessed by the mercy of Sri Bhagawan. Therefore, it is important to follow the path that they have shown. Now, some people are not able to follow the path. Some people want to create a new path. Why so? Because they have never come in contact with a genuine sadhu and never experienced the good effects of associating with a genuine sadhu. Srila Rupa Goswami has said, please note the sequence. I said Sadhu Vartmanu Vartanam is limb number 4. See the first 3 limbs, dear devotees. Guru Padashrayas Tasmad Krishna Diksha Dikshikshanam Vishrambhena Guru Seva Sadhu Vartmanuvartanam. The limbs of bhakti are as follows, and the sequence is also very important, dear devotees. First, Guru Pada Shrayah, taking the shelter of a bona fide Guru. Dhāmeśvara Prabhu, if somebody has not performed this first step, can such a person easily follow the path of the previous sadhus?
I'm reminded of that purport where it says that one can't advance very far under the insufficient guidance of a Kanishta Adhikari.
Right. But if one doesn't take guidance from any adhikari, just wants to read the books of the previous acaryas, will it be easy for such a person to advance?
No.
No.
I think Srila Prabhupada says that in Bhagavatam 3:25-25.
Right. Second limb is Krishna Dikshadi Shikshanam. Take Diksha, accept initiation from the Guru and accept Shiksha. How to progress on the path of bhajan. This is very important because the Guru will give genuine Shiksha. And for the first time, we start receiving benefits from the Guru. And Vishrambhena Guru Seva. And then we should also serve the Guru with confidence. And when we serve the Guru with confidence, the Guru also starts reciprocating by speaking those tattvas, speaking that esoteric knowledge, which is not available to simple book readers. And then, when we understand what is the benefit of following the path of the sadhus, from the mouth of the Guru we have heard of the benefit, then we realize what is the importance of following the previous acaryas, sadhu vartmanuvartanam. A person who has not studied under a Guru, a person who has not had the chance of rendering service to a Guru, a person who has never become humble in front of a Guru, will never be able to understand the value of following the path of the previous sadhus. In every generation, such a person will try to invent his or her new path and will always try to challenge the path of the previous sadhus. And this challenging mentality will lead such a person to Ghatta kuti-prabhata nyayah, to following the long winded road and then finally ending up with lots of effort in the same place. Finally, such a person will end up with the conclusion that it would have been better if I would have followed the previous acaryas. So, therefore, dear devotees, some people are not able to follow sadhu vartmanuvartanam or sato vritti because they don't have the opportunity to take shelter of a bona fide Guru, to serve the bona fide Guru, and to receive instructions from that Guru. When a person receives good instructions, they understand the value of those instructions, and then they are able to value the path of the previous sadhus. Now, therefore, Sri Vyasadeva solidifies this understanding that one should learn how to follow the path of the sadhus from the Guru. In the 11th canto, he says, Tatra bhagavatan dharman shikshed gurvatmadaivatah amayayanu-vrittyayaistushedatmatmado harihi. Tatra bhagavatan dharman shikshed gurvatmadaivatah. Guru atmadaivatah. Considering the Guru, spiritual master, to be atmadevata, to be one's life and soul, to be one's worshipable deity, one should learn Bhagavat Dharma, the path of the sadhus, from such a Guru. How? By first rendering sincere and devoted service. Amayaya, sincere, anuvrittya, and dedicated service should be rendered to such a Guru. And what happens? Yais tushyet atmatma dohari. By doing so, Shri Hari, who is the super soul within the heart, becomes pleased and confers self-realization upon such a sincere seeker. So it's very important that a person should first learn to serve under a Guru. On the path of bhakti, nobody is self-made. Maybe in the world outside, many people say that I'm a self-made man. But on the path of the bhakti, even the previous acaryas are not claiming to be self-made. On the path of bhakti, even Bhagawan says that I am not self-made. It is the sadhus who sustain me. So actually, nobody is self-made on this path. And one who proudly says that I am a self-made person, I will discover my own path, that person will never be able to understand the actual error-free path of progress that has been shown by the previous acaryas. Sri Rupa Goswami therefore gives a very stark warning. Dhāmeśvara Prabhu, tomorrow I want to start my own new cult, let's say. And in my cult, there will be absolutely no focus on chanting. You chant as much as you want. All right. And you only get the mantra from me. And you can chant as much as you want. And do not follow any rules. If you desire to follow some rules, you can follow. Otherwise, it's all up to you. All right. Would you like to become member of my new cult, Prabhu? I am recruiting right now.
No, thank you.
But Prabhu, it's very easy and there are a lot of benefits. And it's the easiest path that I can guarantee you in Kali Yuga.
The adjustments seem pretty self-serving and self-indulgent. I'm not sure how they'll help me.
Exactly. So any person can claim that they are starting a new path in bhakti. And gradually such a person may attract followers also. And gradually these followers may start proclaiming that this person is one-pointedly devoted to Bhagawan. But Sri Rupa Goswami says, unless a guru is teaching exactly what is given in Shastra, unless a guru is teaching you exactly to follow the previous acaryas, such a guru will only end up creating a big disturbance in society with his show of so-called one-pointed devotion. Sri Rupa Goswami says, what happens to people who don't follow sadhu vartma, who don't follow sato vritti? Sri Rupa Goswami quotes this verse in that exact context. This verse was quoted in the section of Sadhu Vartmanu Vartanam, following the path of sadhus. Sri Jiva Goswami says, what happens to people who don't follow? So this is what happens to people who don't follow sato vritti. Shruti smriti puranadi pancharatra vidhim vina aikantiki harer bhaktir utpatayaiva kalpate. Harer bhaktir, Krishna bhakti, which is aikantiki, appears to be very one-pointed. I am putting a very nice tilak every day. I am, every morning I am pretending to chant my rounds very sincerely. I appear very one-pointed. And my followers all think that such a pure devotee, such a person may appear to be aikantik, one-pointed. But if such a person is not following the vidhi, the injunctions of Shruti, Vedas, Smritis, Puran, Pancharatra literature, then any so-called one-pointedness that a person is displaying in their bhakti will simply turn into a big disturbance either for the person himself or for the society. Please try to understand. So any so-called bhakti which is devoid of Shastra, any so-called bhakti which is devoid of the path of the sadhus, previous acharyas, will simply cause a disturbance to the individual as well as to the society. So follow only the path of the previous sadhus without making a single mistake. Sri Rupa Goswami further clarifies. Somebody may ask, then why does such a person appear so one-pointed? Why is he appearing so one-pointed if his path is not correct? Sri Rupa Goswami says, Bhaktiraikantiki veyam avicharat pratiyate vastutastu tatha naiva yada shastriyate. He says, truly speaking, false devotion appears one-pointed only because of lack of proper thought, only because we did not think about it deeply, only because we saw the externals. We saw the beautiful face, we saw the false display of chanting sincerely. We saw all these false displays. And therefore, it appeared to be one-pointed. Actually, one-pointedness should be seen on the basis of how one-pointedly one is following Shastra. That is what one-pointedness is. Actually, such show devotion is not one-pointed because disrespect for Shastra is seen in such practices. So, dear devotees, The simple path that the previous acaryas have given is free of error, free of disturbances. It has been tried and tested. And what is that path is going to be revealed in the Upadeshamritam. The reason why I am not getting into the details of the path is because that path is the subject matter of the Upadeshamritam. Upadeshamritam itself is sato vritti. What is the path to be followed by the sadhus? But first and foremost, I am reinforcing a conclusion given by Sri Rupa Goswami. Don't try to invent a new path, or don't try to think that bhakti could have been done in a better way. If only we would have done XYZ. No, it has already been tried, tested, and many people have attained success in the past. There is no point of trying to change it or in any major way. Some minor adjustments are made from time to time, but no adjustment can be made in the conclusions, siddhantas of bhakti. This one has to understand. Some minor adjustments for propagating it can be made. What minor adjustments? For example, previously we used to print paper books. Nowadays, we also give e-books. So minor adjustments are there, how to propagate the path of bhakti. But we do not change the siddhantas, the principles within those books, dear devotees. So please try to understand that anybody who changes any of the siddhantas is basically changing the sadhu vartman, is changing the path of the sadhus, and should not be listened to. We have in our devotional life the tripod, Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. I have said previously, one of these three gives validation to the other two. Does Guru give validation to Sadhu and Shastra? Dhāmeśvara Prabhu? Does Sadhu give validation to Guru and Shastra? Or does Shastra give validation to Guru and Sadhu?
Shastra gives validation to Guru and Sadhu.
Yes. So amongst these three limbs, the one limb which certifies the other two, the one limb which stands independently, is Shastra. It is Shastra which gives validation to Guru, Shastra which tells us who is a bona fide Guru. And it is Shastra which gives validation to Sadhu. Therefore, Sri Jiva Goswami, when he is explaining sato vritti, sadhu vartmanu vartanam, he says sadhu vartma shruti adi vidhyatmaka. What is sadhu's path? The sadhu's path is nothing but the path of Shastra, following the injunctions of Shastra. Therefore, it's very important that when we follow a particular sadhu, we should ensure that the sadhu is following Shastra. If the sadhu is not following the path of Shastra, then we are perhaps making a mistake by following that particular sadhu. Now, Sri Jiva Goswami therefore says that we may go to any particular sadhu, and if that particular sadhu is not speaking on the basis of Shastra, then such a speaker as well as such a listener, both will get degraded. Dear devotees, the path of the sadhus is nothing but the path shown by Shastra. Sri Jiva Goswami says in the Bhakti Sandarbha, Yo bhakti nyaya rahitam anyayena shrunoti yah tav bhau narakam ghoram vrajatah kalamakshayam. Yo bhakti nyaya rahitam, a person who instructs in a manner devoid of shastric logic, a person who instructs without any shastric logic, and anyayena shrunoti, and a person who illogically accepts such pseudo instructions. Tav bhav, both these individuals, narakam ghoram vrajata, suffer in deep hell for unlimited time, kalamakshayam. Now deep hell here means they repeatedly get recycled in the ocean of birth and death. So they again and again they get recycled in the repeated ocean of birth and death. So repeating your existence in the material world is like suffering a hell. So that is what is being spoken of in the verse here. That anybody who gives false instructions and anybody who accepts such a false instruction, both these types of people, they will suffer repeated birth and death. Therefore, dear devotees, follow the sadhu marga without hesitation. And what is the sadhu's marga? That which has been specified in the devotional shastras. the devotional literature. And any sadhu who doesn't bring us back to Shastra, please try to understand such a sadhu or so-called sadhu is most likely creating a cult around themselves. And therefore, it is important that the sadhu should always point to the authority of Shastra. And Shastra is self-authorized. It is swataha praman. It doesn't need any external authority to certify it. Now, therefore, we should know that on the path of bhajan, we have to always remain under the guidance, either as a sadhaka, as a practitioner, or as a siddha, as a perfected soul. As a sadhaka, we follow the Goswamis, Sanatan Goswami, Rupa Goswami, Jiva Goswami. These are the sadhus whom we follow. On the path of when we become perfected also in the spiritual world, we have devotees whom we follow. Some devotees follow Shri Balaram, some devotees follow Mother Yashoda, some devotees follow the gopis. Our entire path is a path of anugatya. Anugatya means following the footsteps. When we are a practitioner, we follow the footsteps of the practitioner devotees. When we are perfected, we follow the footsteps of the perfected devotees. On the left hand side, you can see the practicing devotees who have attained the final goal, Sri Rupa, Sanatan, Sri Jiva, etc. The right hand side, you can see the perfected identities in the spiritual world. So whether we are in the material world as a practitioner or whether we are a siddha, in both cases, we have to follow the path of the sadhus of those respective worlds, either the material world or the spiritual world. And therefore, Sri Vyasadeva says that this is the error-free path. You will not make a mistake if you follow the path given by the sadhus. Yana sthaya naro rajan na pramadyet karhichit dhavan nimilya va netre naskhalin pateriha. In the 11th canto, Sri Vyasadeva says, one who accepts this process of devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, na pramadyeta, will never fall on this path, never blunder on this path. Dhavan nimilya va netre, even while running with eyes closed. I had explained previously, one eye is the Shruti, one eye is the Smriti. Both eyes may be closed, but still if one has the guidance of the sadhu who knows Shruti and Smriti, then one will not make a mistake in this world. He will not trip or fall. He will attain success simply by following the path shown by the bona fide guru. So dear devotees, this is because sato vritti is a very elaborate topic. What is the path of the sadhus? That is the entire Upadeshamritam is nothing but the path of the sadhus. But here Sri Rupa Goswami wants to speak not about the actual path, but about the importance of following that path. So first and foremost, we should establish what is the importance of following the path of the sadhus. What is the actual path of sadhus? Now from 4th verse onwards, gradually it will begin. From 4th verse onwards, Sri Rupa Goswami will now start speaking from the next verse onwards. What do you do in the society of devotees? You want to have good relationship with like-minded devotees. First and foremost, determine who are the like-minded devotees. And then you will want to have 6 exchanges with them. So we will start getting into that the next time. But once again, I would like to conclude the 3rd instruction. Utsahan nishchayat dhairyat tat karma pravartanat sangatyagat sato vrtteh shadbir bhakti prasidhyatu. Bhakti is perfected by these 6. Utsaha, enthusiasm; nishchaya, determination; dhairya, perseverance; tat karma pravartana, execution of acts which are favorable to bhakti; sangatyaga, giving up unfavorable association; and sato vritteh, vritteh, following the conduct of sat, of the sadhus. Dear devotees, with this, I would like to offer one last verse to Sri Rupa Goswami. And I would like to say to Sri Rupa Goswami, Utsaha nishchayadi shad gunavarjita pamarah nahi lapsye hareh sevam vina rupa kripamaham. Utsaha Nishchayadi Shad Guna Varjita Pamara. I am a lowly person devoid of the 6 essential good qualities, beginning with Utsaha, Nishchaya, etc. I will never attain Nahi Lapse Harehe Sevam, the service of Hari, Vina, unless Rupa Kripam Aham, unless Sri Rupa Goswami bestows his mercy upon me. So, dear devotees, I said that there will be an attempt to create a mirror verse for every verse that Sri Rupa Goswami has created. So, this is an attempt to create a mirror verse for the verse that Sri Rupa Goswami had created. And I hope that Sri Rupa Goswami is pleased with the effort. I wanted to get into great detail about what is sadhu vritti, what is the path of the sadhus. But it is a matter, subject matter, which will be greatly discussed in immense detail in the talks which will happen ahead. But today I would like to pause my speech. Yadatra skalitam kinchit vidvam saha purayantu tat. Yadatra saushthavam kinchit tat guroreva mena. Yadatra skalitam kinchit. If there's any mistake that I made, vidvam saha, you're all learned devotees, you please show me the sadhu path. Show me the correct path and correct my mistakes. But yadatra saushthavam kinchit. If there's anything nice in the presentation, tat guroreva. It all belongs to the previous sadhus. Me nahi. It doesn't belong to me. Once again, dear devotees, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dhāmeśvara Mahāprabhu Prabhu, for kindly organizing the talk this time. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Jiva Goswami Prabhupada ki jai, Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Hari Parsha Prabhu, for another excellent presentation. We're very grateful, and we're going to go to questions now.
Yeah.
I think an important point is whenever we ask Prabhuji a question, he always references Shastra and the writings of the previous acaryas. And so if we're really good students, then we'll catch those references and we'll refer to them as the authority when we bring up these points with other people, rather than just saying, well, Hari Parsha Prabhu says. We'll say, well, here in the Bhagavatam or this acharya. So we should pay careful attention and take note of the references that he's giving us. We also want to focus on today's verse and not previous or future verses, and topics relevant to the class. We're going to give everyone a chance to ask one question before we go for seconds. Any other points, Prabhuji?
No, perfect, Prabhu. And, second servings for those who are willing to wait. So,
yeah, sounds great. And so we'll start with Raj Parikshit Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
may I pronounce?
Dandot Pranam Prabhuji. Thank you for such a nice presentation. Prabhuji, you said that we have to choose the path which is given by sadhus. And there should be a tripod between Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. But in Vrindavan and Barsana, we see many sadhus. They speak exactly Gaudiya Vaishnava philosophy. They speak about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And even in their lectures, for everything they quote scriptures. They don't go anywhere here and there. They are on the path of scripture only. They teach what is given in scripture only. But they themselves don't have any guru. But how to understand this kind of sadhus?
All right. So, in Vrindavan or in many other holy places, we may see certain sadhus who are themselves not initiated by a sadhu, but they are speaking from Shastra, they are faithful to Shastra, and they may be quoting Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also. How do we deal with such sadhus? How do we understand them? How do we deal with them? So Sri Rupa Goswami is going to tell us ahead in Upadeshamritam that Krishneti yasya giritam manasa adriyata. One who is chanting Krishna's name, one who is following the path, one should definitely respect them through one's mind, never disrespect them. But Diksha asti chet, if they are properly initiated by a guru, pranatibhischa, we will also offer them obeisances. And Shushrushaya bhajana vigyam, and if they are bhajana vigya, they understand the path of bhajan by hearing it from a guru. and then they are practicing it in their lives, not simply by reading a book, but by serving under a guru, then that person is bhajan avijja. Then such a person we will render service to. So all levels of Vaishnavas will be covered there. So there may be some Vaishnava in Vrindavan or any other holy place who may themselves not be initiated, but they may be following the path of the sadhus as it is given in the books. So sometimes some Vaishnavas hide their initiation because it is said, Gopayet Guru Atmanah. One should hide one's guru. So sometimes some Vaishnavas, they never reveal who their guru is. There is also a verse in the Shastra, Atma Nama Guror Nama Namati Kripanasya Cha Shreyas Kamo na Grihniya Jeshta Patya Kalatrayo. Atma Nama Guror Nama. One should never speak in public the name of one's guru. So therefore, some people don't speak the name of one's guru in public. So some people follow that rule, that they will never speak the name of their guru, even though they might have accepted one. So therefore, some people get the impression that such Vaishnavas don't have a guru, when in fact they may be having a guru. So we don't know. But even in the case that they don't have a guru, just because they are chanting Krishna Nam and just because they are following the path of the sadhus, we should give them mental respect. That will protect us from committing any aparat towards them, and that will definitely add to our bhakti sukriti. So I hope this answer satisfies you.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji.
Hare
Next we have Mohit Deshmukh.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you for a wonderful katha. My question is, Prabhuji, as you said about the kirtan, many devotees in general say just do kirtan bas. Also, you highlighted the importance of smaran. But in the Vaishnava case, Saraswati Prabhupada says that kirtana prabhave smarana haive se kale bhajana nirjana sambhava. The practice of kirtan results in the qualification to serve the Lord in meditation, which is smaran. Only at that time is service to the Lord in solitude possible. Actually, it is one song is there, Gurudev Kabya Mor Saidinave, in that Nirjana. So my question is, so how can we know when we are qualified for Smaran? And also we know that first comes Shravan Dasha, then Varana Dasha, then Smaran Dasha. What is the parameter to know on which Dasha we are?
See, I always say this thing. The path of bhakti is, the previous acaryas never parameterized their bhakti. If you see the previous acaryas, you won't find them saying, when I was 20 years old, I was having Shraddha. 25 years old, I got Sadhu Sangha. 30 years old, I got Diksha. 32 years old, I started Bhajan Kriya. And 35 years old, I had Anartha Nivritti. So they don't parameterize their bhakti. We should not see them as exactly as distinct steps. They are mixed into each other. The first step is mixed into the second, which is mixed into the third, which is mixed into the fourth. It's like a continuous stream of progress. So parameterizing a continuous stream of progress is often difficult. The one thing is, which will definitely happen is, if we are progressing on the path of bhajan, then the desire for smaran will happen naturally, organically, without any external force or impetus. This is what is the genuine test of a person who is progressing. So there is a verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhakti pareshanu bhavo viraktir अन्यत्र चैष त्रिक एक कालः प्रपद्यमानस्य यथाश्नतः स्युर तुष्टि पुष्टि शुद्धपायोनुघासम. I will show you that verse. This is Bhagavatam 11:242. So I will share this verse with you, and you can see how naturally the sequence of progress is given in the Srimad Bhagavatam. This is 11:242. Bhakti pareshanu bhavo viraktir anyatra chaishatrika ekakala. So devotion, step 1, direct experience of the Lord and detachment from other things. These three occur simultaneously for one who has taken shelter of Supreme Personality of Godhead, in the same way that pleasure, nourishment, and relief from hunger come simultaneously and increasingly with every bite for a person who is engaged in eating. Now, Mohit Prabhu, when you are engaged in eating, do you try to calculate how full you are or how hungry you are, or do you keep eating? Please tell me, Mohit Prabhu.
No, Prabhu, I don't count.
So it's not about parameterized bhakti. Parameterization is good once in a while, but if you start doing it on every step, then that is not the process which was followed by the previous sadhus. The previous sadhus took it as a very natural process, like you eat food. By eating food, you naturally get freedom from hunger and nourishment, etc. Similarly, once you have the guidance of the proper sadhus, it has to flow naturally. It's not that you have to take care of 10,000 things in bhakti. It has to flow naturally. So if we are taking anxiety over whether this will happen or not, or whether that will happen or not, then we don't have an organic conception of the entire process. The process is organic and natural, and it works for all human beings who have attained the qualification. So when the qualification, where Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura says that by the effect of kirtan, one will come to the stage of smaran. And when will that happen? That will happen spontaneously. It doesn't need a certificate from a third party. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura did not say that when that happens, go get a certificate from the institution that now you are on Smaran Dasha. So
Yes,
Kirtan Dasha, Shravan Dasha, Varan Dasha, Smaran Dasha, all these stages were not meant to be given as certificates. They are stages for self-evaluation, and this will happen naturally and spontaneously. What we are instead doing is we are trying to make them into upadhis, or we are trying to make them into designations and trying to give ourselves or other people certificates based on them, which is not what was the original intention of the acharya. The original intention of the acharya is to tell people that this is the sequence of progression, this is how you should progress. What we are doing is we are taking it and we are telling everybody else, it is everybody else should progress like this. So it is meant for self-evaluation. That book, Vaishnav K, is meant for self-evaluation, not to be used as a stick for hitting other people in the institution. So please try to understand, because many writings of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura have been weaponized in such a way that they have been used to tell other devotees that you are not qualified, when in fact the writings were meant to be told to our own mind that we are not qualified. So this is what is the purpose of those writings. Manah Shiksha, Kalyan Kalpataru. When Srila Bhaktivinode Thakura wrote Kalyan Kalpataru, in the very beginning he says that Manah Prati, I am writing these instructions towards my own mind. Is that right there in the beginning of Kalyan Kalpataru? What individuals are doing is taking those teachings which are meant for one's own mind, and they are institutionalizing and turning them into upadhis or designations. So this is not the recommendation of the Acharya. Acharya wrote it as an informal book. So similarly, we should also read it as an informal book. So I hope that is understood, Mohit Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu, crystal clear.
Next we have Krishna Das Patra.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Pranam.
My pranams.
Prabhu, I have some questions regarding Guru. Can I ask you in person?
If it is related anything to today's, what we discussed today about the Guru, please go ahead and ask. If it is like completely separate from today's topic, I would suggest that you wait for the other devotees to get over. Keep your hand raised in Zoom, and then at the end you can ask. Does that sound good?
No, I want to ask it in personally. In message,
Personally, you can
WhatsApp.
always, sure, you can always ask in person. No problem.
Okay, Prabhu.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next we have Omkar Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
My pranam.
Prabhuji, in the beginning of the class, you spoke about how poet, when he was composing the book, he had to face some, you can say, backlash from the society at that time. So similarly, with what we can understand is whenever we are, you can say, adding up some things for the sampradaya, which is in a positive direction.
Hmm.
So there is a tension, or I would say stress, which is always there between the convention and what is brought up new.
Hmm.
So how can we address this, and specifically to our line of initiation, because we have some differences um, than the conventional sources, you can say, of our sampradaya.
Right. So in any generation, when a devotee by the inspiration of Bhagawan becomes self-driven, because Bhagawan inspires them to write something, or Bhagawan inspires them to do something, they start writing something or they start doing something, and then obviously there is some opposition to those efforts. This also happened in the case of our own Srila Prabhupada. Now, Srila Prabhupada used to say about himself he used to say that he was not considered as a very good member of his own Guru Maharaj's institution. Let's just put it in, I'm putting it in very plain words. If you want to see the reference, I will show you the reference. So Srila Prabhupada used to say that when he used to go to Gaudiya Math, so the devotees used to call him Pacha Grihastha. So what is Pacha Grihastha? So, Pacha Grihastha means rotten Grihastha. I will show you what Srila Prabhupada says about his own self. Prabhupada says in a morning walk, I was known, although they knew that Prabhupada liked me very much, but because I am Grihastha, I was known as Pacha Grihastha. Pacha means rotten Grihastha. Alright, so let's just put it in this way, in very plain words, that Srila Prabhupada was not considered as a very, one of the topmost followers, institution-wise, he was not considered as one of the top 5 followers. Because whenever you try to do something revolutionary, but if you are inspired by Bhagavan, then obviously there will be some opposition. Time will tell if it was really Bhagavan's inspiration or whether it was your own selfishness. So that time will tell. But Srila Prabhupada, in the case of Srila Prabhupada, when he traveled to the West, when he preached so much, he often faced a lot of opposition from some of his own god brothers. I had specified in one of the previous talks that before Prabhupada went, one of the god brothers told him, first we will check you if you are eligible to preach in the West. And if we find that you are eligible according to our standards, then we will send you on our money, and then you have to preach exactly what we tell you to preach. That is what. Are you willing to follow? So Srila Prabhupada said, no, I'm not willing to follow. I'm sorry. I'll rather find my own ticket. So this happens in every generation. Please try to understand. This happens in every generation. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura wrote an article about it. This article is often not very much read in the institution. This article is called Putana. In the article named Putana, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura wrote some very unpalatable truths about the organized form of religion. So I am showing you one such statement from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura's article named Putana. And in this article has such English that it's often difficult to understand many of the sentences. But still, there is one sentence which I like very much, and I will share this with you. I am sharing my screen. So I don't discuss this article very often in public because, even though it is written by our own previous acharya, the article has a tendency to ruffle the feathers of many individuals who are members of an institution. But still, I would, for this, I'll make an exception in this case, and I'll share this article. All right. So, In this article, yes. Omkar Prabhu, please read this sentence.
The people of this world understand preventive systems. They have no idea at all of the unprevented positive eternal life.
So this is the case with all sorts of creativity. In any generation, if you have a tendency to be creative, and if you have a tendency to do something for the sampradaya, for the parampara, you will often face opposition from the organization or institution, not the entire institution, but from within sections of the institution, simply because it is the nature of the institution to be a preventive system. The institution tells you what you should not do. And I'm not highlighting any one institution here. All institutions, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura wrote about all institutions. It is the nature of institutions to act as preventive systems, not as encouraging systems. Try to understand. And if you if you're in your experience of the institution, you might have noticed this fact time and again. So institutions are what they are. They are good preventive systems. So they are good for preventing. So similarly, the society is also an institution. Please write on, the society is also a varnashram institution. Therefore, it prevents people who are creative from progressing ahead in their creativity, or from it prevents people from trying to do something new. So that is the answer to your query. So it will always happen. It happened in the case of Srila Prabhupada. It happened in the case of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura, who faced a lot of opposition. It happened in the case of Srila Bhaktivinode Thakura. It happened in the case of Srila Baldev Vidyabhushan, who faced opposition from another sampradaya for speaking about worship of Radha Krishna. It happened in the case of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, who was in support, of who did not support Varna by birth, basically while giving initiation. It happened in the case of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It happened in the case of all bona fide teachers of eternal religion. So why should any new person be an exception to this, when it has happened in the case of everyone? Right? When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was dancing on the streets of Varanasi, these people said, this sannyasi has taken sannyas and he has not given up his attachment to song and dance. Can you imagine, people saying like that about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? There was a Maharashtrian Brahmin there. He became very deeply hurt at heart when he heard that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is being criticized like this. So it happened with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So we should not be surprised if it happens in the current generation. Institutions are preventive systems. They will never, ever produce anything of unprevented, positive, eternal spiritual life. This is not my sentence. This is the sentence of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura. Right? So that's a sobering answer, and I hope it answers your query.
Yes, true. Thank you. I would just like to conclude. So time will give the answer, because not every time we can clarify what is in the heart of someone.
Phalena parichiyate. By the result, you will be able to judge in the future. All right?
Yes, true. Thank you.
Next we have Jayadeva Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Pranam Prabhuji. Yes, thank you so much, Prabhuji, for clarifying all these very important issues, actually, which are really burning in the hearts of many individuals. So we are really, really grateful to you for all this. Prabhuji, I had a question, Prabhuji. I would say this is just the elaboration of what just Prabhuji asked, Omkar. Actually, Prabhuji, as you told, the many actually such kind of mistakes and misconceptions, they come in organization also from many generations, just like after Srila Prabhupada has also departed. So many such misconceptions came and they continued, and because of that, spiritual lives of many devotees were also hampered. And still many of them, many of those misconceptions and mistakes are being continued. And what happens is that when the devotee is newly introduced to the process, he do not have complete understanding of scriptures. So he also tends to get fit into that system and like machinery process. And over a period of time, he also creates such conditions in his life by which he's not able to come out of that also. For example, the person taking initiation from a spiritual master without understanding actually the proper mode of spiritual master. Then now, and after understanding what a spiritual master means and what are my duties towards spiritual master and what are my tendencies and what are the desires of my spiritual master, after understanding all this, it becomes very difficult for him to go along with that spiritual master, even though he regards that spiritual master as a pure devotee. But so such kind of like stumbling blocks, they come and the person is left with no practical solution and there is nobody to advise. And in case he and he is sincere follower, but and then people will also start blaming him that you are like not following your guru.
Yeah, faithless person. Yeah.
Yes. And such kind of, this is one such example, Guruji. So in such cases, even what should a sincere follower do?
Very nice. So, this article that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura wrote, he had this issue in his mind that, many people come to organized religion and then they fall into some misconception. And what to do in order to ensure that a mass of people come to religion, but they are not cheated. How should we ensure this? So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura, when he analyzed the entire situation, so in the article, he writes that what is his conclusion in this regard. So I will share, and Prabhu, you can read one by one sentence. All right, I will explain to you the meaning. Prabhu, please read this first sentence. First two sentences.
Putana, yes. Putana is the slayer of all the infants. The baby, when he or she comes out of the mother's womb, falls at once into the hands of the pseudo teachers of religion.
Very nice. So Putana, it was the first demoness who came to kill Krishna. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura is equating childhood with a new devotee who has entered into spiritual life. And just as the first demoness who comes to kill Krishna is Putana, similarly, the first obstacle which comes in a devotee's life is a pseudo teacher of religion. Now, then he says these teachers mean these pseudo teachers, are successful in stopping the attempts of the good preceptor, the bona fide teacher, whose help is never sought by the atheists of the world at the baptism of their babies. So these pseudo teachers, they ensure baptism. Baptism means initiation into a process, which will automatically put that new devotee in the system in the hands of a person whom he doesn't understand, that new devotee is put into incorrect hands. And he says this is ensured by the arrangements of all established churches of the world. All established churches. Now, I'm not highlighting any one institution. This is Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura's point. All established churches of the world do the same thing. They have been successful only in supplying watchful putanas for carrying out the spiritual destructions of people from the moment of their birth with the cooperation of their worldly parents. Now you may ask that how do you stop this? Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura says no human effort can prevent these putanas from obtaining possession of these platforms of institutions. You cannot do anything to stop them. This is due to the general prevalence of atheistic disposition in the people of this world. So the very sad answer to the question is nothing can be done in order to prevent people from falling into the hands of pseudo teachers. Now, I don't discuss this article so often because I am myself a member of an institution, and and an institution has a lot of value. It has a lot of benefits. It allows us to perform sadhu sangha, which otherwise I would have had to do it individually. And an institution allows me to have so many devotees contact with so many devotees. So I value and respect the institution very much. At the same time, I cannot neglect this writing of my own acharya, who is showing me the flip side of the coin. The flip side of the coin is that an institution produces putanas, which means teachers who don't understand what is true religiosity and in whose hands new babies are falling every day. And I can do nothing to prevent it. Nothing to prevent it. So what I can do is, what is the best thing that I can do? The best thing that I can do is to genuinely seek out the shelter of a guru who is bona fide according to the criteria given in Shastra. Seek out such a guru, first and foremost, and to accept shiksha or to accept teachings in bhajan from such a guru. So this is what can be done. So if some devotee feels that his initial guides were not helpful in his bhajan, so then such a devotee can later accept shiksha from a person who has stood the test of Shastra, who is a bona fide guru. So acceptance of shiksha from a bona fide guru, that window is always open. That window will never close. And based on that shiksha, we can progress all the way back home, back to Godhead. That shiksha is the most important factor that one can get. Therefore, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura was very merciful, and he said that our parampara is a shiksha parampara. Instead of saying that our parampara is a diksha parampara, he said that our parampara is a shiksha parampara, because he knew that in an institution, it may sometimes happen that a person may get initiated by someone whom he later realizes was not exactly the person whom I should have been looking out for. But still, the doorway of shiksha will remain open and the person will be able to progress. Srila Bhaktivinode Thakur's Diksha Guru and Srila Bhaktivinode Thakur's Shiksha Guru, if we see, we will notice that Srila Bhaktivinode Thakur's own spiritual life was based on the teachings given to him by his Shiksha Guru, Sri Jagannath Das Babaji. So in the Acharya's own life, his own progress came through his Shiksha Guru, Srila Bhaktivinode Thakur's own life. So why can it not happen in the lives of other sadhakas? So if a sadhaka becomes sincere today, let him try to find a bona fide teacher today and let him try to take shiksha from that bona fide teacher. I hope this satisfies your query.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
Next we have Bishwadeep Prabhu.
Yes.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu, for the class. So, Prabhu, I have doubt that every day we are learning so many new things from you, and we also learn from different sadhus and different devotees. And you told today that in a answer to the question that we should not reveal our guru to anyone. So, if we suppose give some not instruction, suppose some answers or something to others, should we not mention that from whom we have listened, or we should just quote the shastras? As while doing this, we can become proud that by showing to show that I have gained all this knowledge by self-study or something like that. That's my question.
So, right. So the first thing is one should hide one's guru. Where does this instruction come from? So this instruction comes from Sri Hari Bhakti Vilas of Sri Gopal Bhatt Goswami and Sanatan Goswami. Where in the Hari Bhakti Vilas is this given? In the second Vilas, in the second chapter, which deals with Diksha. So I will show you the verse, which is verse number 147 of the second chapter of Hari Bhakti Vilas. I am sharing my screen. He quotes Sammohan Tantra. He is quoting a literature, a Tantra literature. And Sri Gopal Bhatt Goswami says, Gopaye Devatam Ishtam. Gopaye means hide, protect your Ishta Devata, your worshipable deity. So don't tell other people whom my worshipable deity is. Don't just walking on the street tell people whom my worshipable deity is. He says, Gopayet Gurum Atmanaha. So hide Atmanaha, your guru. So this is where this instruction occurs. Now, how this instruction should be understood is that don't canvas your guru. Basically, the meaning of this is don't canvas your guru. You know what is the meaning of canvassing one's guru? Canvassing
No.
means you try to project that guru as Jagat Guru, everybody else's guru in the world. So that is called canvassing. So try not to canvas the guru. Once in a while, some devotee will ask you, who is your Guru Maharaj? You can reveal the name, but while revealing the name, you should add some honorifics at the beginning. You should add Shri, Srimad, His Holiness. You know, honorifics should be added at the beginning. This is also given in the Hari Bhakti Vilas. That in the when you speak the name of the Guru, it should be with honorifics, not without honorifics. So sometimes a devotee may ask you privately, who is your Guru? Or sometimes in a lecture, somebody may ask you, from whom did you hear this? Or sometimes you may want to speak a realization from your Guru and you may want to give credit. So whenever you want to do that, add honorifics to the name of the Guru. My Guru, Shri, Srimad. Like, so by adding Shri, Srimad, and or by adding His Holiness in front of the name of the Guru, speak the name of the Guru, not in a mood to canvas the Guru. So don't say that, see how great my Guru is. Now you should also accept. If you don't accept, then better luck next life. So don't try to canvas, Guru like in this manner. So this is the meaning of the verse. Some devotees take the meaning of this verse as don't speak the name at all, ever. But some devotees understand it as don't canvas your Guru, because that is a understanding which can work in an institution. In an institution, you can't stop speaking the name of the Guru. You just don't canvas the Guru. That is the understanding which will work for an institution. So I hope this satisfies your query.
Yes, Prabhu, absolutely. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hari Bol.
Next, I have a question, Prabhuji.
Yes.
I had a hard time relating to the statement that there's no suffering in bhakti.
Right.
Sometimes in my japa, it's really effort. Sometimes on Ekadashi, I feel like no matter how much I eat, I don't feel right. When we have fasting days, sometimes I resent it a lot. Is that just my conditioning that I'm unable to see that this is Kevalananda Kanda?
Right. So often when we are fasting, is fasting bhakti or is increased remembrance of Krishna on the day of fasting bhakti? So the bhakti aspect is introduced by spending the day for Bhagawan. So therefore it is called upavas. Upa means near, vas means staying near Bhagawan. So closer proximity to Bhagawan is known as upavas. And therefore, whatever we do on a fasting day to increase the smaran, to increase the remembrance, that is the bhakti aspect. Now, when we are remembering Bhagavan, then that aspect will never be painful. When we are remembering Bhagavan, that aspect will never be painful. Let's say other aspects like, our stomach may give trouble or our mind may give trouble, but our stomach and our mind are not yet fully devotionalized. When Bhakti Devi will fully devotionalize all the senses, those senses will not give any trouble. I will give you a very simple example. So, for example, those of us who are parents, we remember the birth of our child. We waited for many hours patiently. Many hours we waited, and we were all, in great anticipation. How will the child be? How will they look? So our entire mind was focused on smaran, remembrance of the child who's about to come. We may have stayed hungry for many hours. But was that painful? Please tell me, Prabhu.
It was all worth it.
Yeah. Did the pain, did you ever, you also have gone through the experience of anticipating childbirth. Now, was your mind focused on the pain of hunger or was it
No.
focused on the excitement of the child who's about to arrive in the world?
The excitement.
Yeah. So once the mind is fully aligned with the process of bhakti, bhakti by herself is kleshagni. The first of one of the 6 characteristics is it destroys all suffering. So how can it be a source of suffering? The source of suffering is the lack of her presence. And that is what is causing the suffering in our day-to-day practice of bhakti. And sometimes what devotees do is they think that this suffering is actually bhakti, when in fact the suffering, the material suffering, is a lack of perception of bhakti in those respective aspects of our lives. So if we have if Bhakti Devi enters into those aspects of our life, then we will not feel the suffering. As easy as that. So it's a very sweet process, and it's not about hitting oneself with a stick. I realized after many painful years that bhakti is not a process of self, what do they call? Self-flagellation.
Fluctuation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so bhakti is not a process of self-flagellation. So, but I also, I also was taught in the beginning that you should suffer for Krishna. My goodness, I tried to look, but it was not one of the 64 limbs of bhakti to suffer. So, thank you.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Next we have Ananga Mohan Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat. Thank you again for such a wonderful classes and points you clarified. Prabhuji, many times it is seen that we are trying to follow the sadhu vrtteh, and some of the dealings of the sadhus are in stark contradiction with the precedents set by the earlier acharyas, just like in the case of the Sri Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura. He has taken sannyas from the photo of his Guru Dev, and establishment of the varnashram dharma, just like the sannyas of the normal varnas, which is not prevailing at that time in the society at large. So these are the stark contradictions which are seen in the saintly persons, and it was not prevalent in those times according to the scriptural understanding of that time. So how to harmonize these contradictions, which are true, but it seems to be contradictions?
Right. So let's take Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's sannyas. So my first query is, where is it mentioned in Shastra that sannyas should be taken from a particular person?
I don't know.
See, we made up a rule, but we don't know. Shastra says, Yad ahareva virajet, tad ahareva pravrajet. Jaba sannyas, I think it's one of the Upanishads. It is quoted in
Jabali Upanishad.
Jabal Upanishad, or I think it is quoted in Jivan Mukti Vivek of the followers of Sri Adi Shankaracharya. This Upanishad is quoted. Yat ahareva virajet, tat ahareva pravrajet. The moment you become fully detached, that very moment you leave and take sannyas. All right. Now, question. Sri Ramanujacharya also accepted sannyas. Who is Sri Ramanujacharya's sannyas guru?
Yeah, because Sri Bhaktisiddhanta has taken this from the Ramanujacharya's
No.
life.
I'm asking you another question. Who is Sri Ramanujacharya's sannyas guru? Very simple question.
No, he is also no sannyas guru. That's why Bhaktisiddhanta has taken inspiration from.
Sri Ramanujacharya took sannyas directly from Lord Varadaraj, or he took the sannyas danda directly from the inspiration of Sri Bhagawan, which proves that when it comes to matters such as sannyas, these rules are not mandatory that you have to take sannyas from a person. It is an institutional rule. institutions are preventive systems. As I said very clearly, sannyas is an institution. Institutions are preventive systems. They have no idea of the unrestricted, unprevented spiritual life which takes place in the spiritual world. So, question is, first question, was Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura qualified for sannyas? Yes or no? Answer?
Yes.
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 So, yad ahareva virajet. The moment that you become fully qualified, tad ahareva pravrajet. That moment you can fully detach yourself. Right. So, even without having taken the symbols of a sannyasi, the danda, the saffron cloth, he was already living as a sannyasi. So, if he was already living as a sannyasi, what harm is there in taking the symbols, even when in fact Shastra itself says? Some people said that he was acting against the rules of Shastra. But I have quoted Shastra to specify, and I have given examples also, like Sri Ramanujacharya, who, in accordance with Shastra, took sannyas, but did not take it from a guru, because sannyas does not mandate you that you should take it from a guru. So, this is very clear, 100%. But yes, if you are in an institution, then you should take it from a guru. That's what caused the entire controversy. The controversy is because you are a Gaudiya Vaishnava, and in the broader Gaudiya Vaishnava institution, there was no concept of sannyas. So how did you come up with sannyas? Now, it's not that sannyas doesn't require an unbroken chain of guru-disciple parampara. Mantra initiation requires that, not sannyas initiation. So, sannyas is yad ahareva virajet, tad ahareva pravrajet. The moment that you become detached, that moment you renounce. Should I show you that quote in Shastra? Yad ahareva virajet, tad ahareva pravrajet.
No, I heard it. I heard it already.
Yes. So, it's one of the popular quotes from the Upanishads. So, some other things, like he used motor cars for traveling. He used to print books. These things were being opposed. Now today, those very people who used to oppose those things, if you see their disciples and grand disciples today, those disciples and grand disciples are using motor cars and printing books. So, who was proven correct by time? You please tell me.
Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura.
That's the hallmark of a bona fide, unconventional teacher of religion. Right?
Thank you very much, bro. Thank you so much.
Next we have Radhika Vallabha Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Haribol Prabhu.
Haribol Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu, for a very nice question answer class both. Question is that when the acaryas
Prabhuji, will you please speak up a little bit?
Started.
Will you please speak up a little bit? It's hard to hear you.
Your internet connection is going on and off. So I think Prabhu, you'll have to speak little louder and maybe in a better connection. No, I'm not able to hear. Radhika Vallabha Prabhu, if it is possible that you can type it, then I can take that question, or because I think your network receptibility is low, so that internet connection is not coming through. So my request is that since I'm not able to hear you, if you can send the question either in the Upadeshamritam group or here in the chat box, whatever is easier for you, I'll definitely answer your query, Prabhuji. I'm really sorry I'm not able to hear you because of the internet connection from your side. Let's move ahead.
Okay, so should we take Vishwadi Prabhu's question?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm unmuting.
Prabhu, I have a very small question, just a general question. If some very senior devotee or someone says, suppose Dāso'smi, that I am your servant, like Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada also used to say, then what should be the reply of a junior devotee?
What should be the reply of a junior devotee?
Or just listen, because it's quite means uncomfortable to.
Yeah, but every devotee has the name Das attached to them, Das or Dasi, and they are supposed to see themselves in that way. So the devotee who sings, a senior devotee may say Dāso'smi, and a devotee who is relatively newer than that devotee should not, take it literally, thinking that he is actually my servant. A devotee who is younger should also, say to everyone else that, I am your servant Dāso'smi. And the senior devotees Dāsa, he should see that, this devotee is teaching through his behavior how I should behave with others. So this is how a younger devotee can take that particular instruction. So I hope that this answers your query. Does it answer
Yes.
your query? All right,
Yeah, yeah.
thank you. So we will go to Jai Gauranga Prabhu next.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandrat Pranam. Thank you for the wonderful class. In one of the previous class, you mentioned that we should cry for Krishna, and also the process of surrendering. It's not that blissful. So, like today, it all the process of bhakti is very blissful. So, how we reconcile this two statements?
No, crying is very blissful. It is a very blissful thing to be able to cry for Bhagawan. One who has cried for Bhagawan, they know how blissful it is to cry for Bhagawan. So it is a very blissful thing to be able to cry for Bhagawan. It is not like the crying which we experience after, having some material loss. Crying for Bhagawan is of a very different nature. It is one of the most blissful experiences that a person can have if they've had it. And it leaves them, that crying in fact brings them much closer to Bhagawan. It makes Bhagawan's presence much more clearer in their hearts. And therefore crying for Bhagawan should never be taken as material suffering. I am very clearly said that bhakti has the process of bhakti has zero material suffering involved in it. But suffering which is of a nature of the spiritual world is not actually suffering. It is actually the highest bliss. There is a very nice verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam. I would like to point it out. So the gopis, the gopas, Nanda Maharaj, often they used to cry when they would see Krishna in distress. Now question arises, was this material suffering or was this not material suffering? Answer is given by Srila Jiva Goswami in the Srimad Bhagavatam, that none of this crying was material suffering. Where does he say? In the 10th canto, chapter number 11. I am sharing my screen. You can have a look at the verse. Iti nandadayo gopaha Krishna Rama katham muda kurvanto ramamanascha na vindan bhava vedanam. This last phrase I want to highlight. Na avindan bhava vedanam. In the word for word, if you see, na, not avindan perceived bhava vedanam, the tribulations of material existence. Translation says, in this way, all the cowherd men headed by Nanda Maharaj enjoyed topics about the pastimes of Krishna and Balram with great transcendental pleasure. Now, in these pastimes, there are many pastimes where Krishna and Balram are in danger. So, did it not give them anxiety? So, Sri Shukdev Goswami said, and they could not even perceive any material tribulations. So, 10th canto, 11th chapter, verse number 58, Sri Jiva Goswami uses this verse in the Sandarbhas to prove that nothing associated with Bhagavan or Bhakti has any material suffering involved with it. So on the strength of that, I am able to say that even if the Vrajavasis sometimes cried for Krishna, it was not material suffering. So even if we are sometimes able to cry for Krishna, it will never be considered as material suffering. So Jai Gaurang Prabhu, I hope I was able to answer your question to some degree of satisfaction.
Prabhuji, I have follow-up question.
Okay.
We can take Radhika Valba's question and come back to him. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure.
Sure.
So it's here in the chat. He writes, Srila Prabhupada did innovation in Brahmana Diksha. He also told at the end of his life that we need not give Brahmana Diksha to everyone, and he did that because of emergency. Some people say that we should exactly follow what Srila Prabhupada did without seeing the apadharma aspect. Can you throw some light on the topic of exactly following apadharma even after the emergency period?
All right. So this question is apad dharma. Apad means emergency. Dharma means any practice of religion during emergency. So apad dharma means sometimes during emergency, you take to a certain measure which is not usually approved. But then once the emergency is over, then you go back to the normal practices. For example, during emergency, a Brahmana may take the occupation of the occupation of a Vaishya business or something like that. But after the emergency is over, he should resume his Brahminical work. So similarly, some individuals say, or not some individuals, Srila Prabhupada himself said sometimes that I have introduced this Brahminical initiation. Now, it is not for everybody. So obviously, it is true that if we want to have a broader Varnashram society, then Varnashram society should have all 4 Varnas and all 4 Ashramas. If it has all 4 Varnas and all 4 Ashramas, then everybody cannot become a Brahmana. 100% clear. There is no doubt about that. But in one of the previous answers in the Upadeshamritam group, I had very clearly specified this thing, that we should try to keep Varnashram projects completely like sister projects. They should not become the mainstream of ISKCON or any other organization. Because what will happen is, if Varnashram takes over, then the Uttama Bhakti aspect of ISKCON will take a backseat. And therefore, I had specified my view in the Upadeshamritam group that Varnashram projects should remain as sister projects. Devotees should implement Varnashram in their sister projects, and whatever works out best for the devotional society, that model should be implemented by everyone. So that is what I had suggested. Now, Srila Prabhupada did not want everybody to become a Brahmana. So obviously, we can have a sister project where we can try to implement all the Varnas and all the Ashramas, and we can try to see if it is working or not. In case it doesn't work, you always have the devotee society ISKCON to fall back upon. So the devotee society ISKCON will always be for Uttama Bhakti, and let other projects be sister projects. This is how I see a very safe way of doing it. I see this as a very safe way. My self-interest here is to safeguard the devotional aspect of ISKCON. That is my self-interest in this entire thing. So I'm very happy if somebody is trying to implement Varnashram, let them try, and my best wishes, and please implement. No, obviously. But because there are statements that 50% of my work is remaining because Varnashram was not implemented. Therefore, some devotees are very enthusiastic about implementing Varnashram. Now, because of being very enthusiastic for implementing Varnashram, there is a tendency that this enthusiasm may start overshadowing the practice of Uttama Bhakti. And when that happens, the soul of our society, which is Uttama Bhakti, will take a backseat. So that should not happen. So that is all that I am saying. So all these things can be taken care of in a sister organization. And if it works out very well, and everybody is happy with it, it's naturally everybody is progressing in their bhakti, then you can take those practices and maybe think of implementing them in the devotional society. But as long as they are not time tested, they are not from Shastra, and they are not working, till that time better to keep them in a separate sister project. That's all I would like to say in this regard. So all practices of Brahminical initiation, Kshatriya initiation, Vaishya initiation, all those practices should be taken care of in a sister organization which is ISKCON friendly. A sister organization which is ISKCON friendly. That is what should be done. So I would like to pause my answer at this point of time. I hope this satisfies you to some extent, Radhika Vallabh Prabhu.
So we have the follow-up question from Prabhuji.
Right.
It was Jai Garanga Prabhu, right?
Yeah, Jai
Yes. Yeah, Prabhuji, you mentioned like the give an example Nand Maharaj and the Brajvasis, but they are on spiritual level. But we as a sadhaka, until unless we undergo sufferings, we are not able to genuinely cry for Krishna. And we also see like Kunti Maharani making a prayer that let the sufferings come so that we can remember Krishna.
So there is no such precondition that unless you go through sufferings, you will not be able to cry for Krishna. We will be able to cry for Krishna if we have the association of a proper sadhu. And in that sadhu, if we feel separation in the association of that sadhu, if we feel separation from Krishna, then we will be able to cry for Krishna. Crying is not due to material suffering. Crying is due to feeling separation from Bhagawan. So sometimes we think crying for Krishna is because I am suffering in the material world. So that Krishna has already spoken of in the Bhagavad Gita. There are 4 types of people who approach me. One of them is distressed. And that is not considered to be a very high level of approaching Krishna. So that has already been tackled in the Bhagavad Gita. What crying for Krishna means is crying in separation of Krishna in a mood which is similar to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mood. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mood is to be emulated by, not imitated, is to be emulated by the sadhakas. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's crying for Krishna is an ideal for us. We should try to emulate that crying, and in that similar mood, we should try to cry for Krishna. So if that we can achieve in the association of a sadhu, then we have cried. Now Kunti Maharani says that if let material sufferings come again and again, so that what? So that I will suffer more? No. So that when they come, I get your darshan. So her self-interest is not in suffering more. Her self-interest is in seeing Krishna again and again. That is the reason why she is praying for repeated miseries to come. She is not affected by the miseries, and she is not saying that let these miseries come for my purification. She is saying let these miseries come so that when they come, you will be present in front of us. So that is the reason for her asking for miseries. She is not asking for miseries for her purification from material desires. I hope this satisfies your answer, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you.
Prabhuji, I have a second question.
Sure.
Sometimes when we read, or when you read the commentaries of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, I get the doubt that he's being so specific in naming certain groups of people with certain beliefs or practices that it's become irrelevant, and it doesn't address modern zeitgeist and ways of thinking.
So he specifies some very precise groups, like sometimes he will say Mayavadi. Now that has taken many variants of Mayavad have come up in the modern world today, all which don't exactly go by the name of followers of Adi Shankaracharya. But many new variants have come up today in the form of new age impersonal thought. For example, there are many people who are saying, be one with the universe, or the universe will answer your desires. So like that, they think that the impersonal Brahman is somehow going to fulfill their desires. There was a book written, it was called The Secret. And in that book, it is said that the universe, I didn't read the book, but somebody told me that the universe tries to fulfill your desires. You just have to pray, something like that. If you pray hard enough and the universe will turn itself to fulfill your desires. Now, it's not the universe. It's given right there in Shastra. Nityo nityanam chetanas chetananam eko bahunam yo vidadhati kaman. That there is one personality who fulfills the desires of all the living entities in the universe. That's the secret right there in the Upanishads. Why? I mean, there's no. So these things which were previously very specific in India have taken various twists and turns when they have arrived in the West. So what needs to be done is a slightly readjusted presentation which is relevant for the modern times can be done by the devotees, which is also the aim of this presentation on Upadeshamritam basically. So wherever I am able to, present it in a modern way, I also try to do that. So it's not simply restricted to the commentary of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura. The commentary has to flow ahead. It has to move ahead. It has to be a movement. So that is how we will be able to make it relevant to the current times. So that is my answer to your query. And if sometimes if I'm not able to address the current relevant issues, then some other devotee can also present. I mean, some other devotee, when they are speaking on Upadeshamritam, they can also present it, because it's Upadeshamritam is open to interpretation as of now. So that is what they can also do. So 100% I agree that some of the terminologies are no longer applicable today, but they have taken newer twists and turns, so we need to repackage them. So like in one of the commentaries of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura, previous class, he used the term utilitarianism, if you remember, in one of the previous classes. So he also had taken a term which was relevant for his times, and he had presented it in his commentary. Now today, utilitarianism as an official philosophy may not be followed by many people, but there are variants of utilitarianism going on in many places in the world. So you find out what are their current names and you address them, in your presentation of Upadeshamritam. So that's what every devotee needs to do. Right. So that's my answer.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
So now I'll ask all the devotees to unmute and give a big thank you to Hari Pārṣada Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare
Hare Krishna.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna,
Thank you,
Prabhu.
Prabhu.
Thank you very much,
Thank
Prabhuji.
you
Hare
very
Krishna.
much.
Hare Baba.
My pranams.
Hare Krishna, Dandot Pranam.
My pranams.
Hare Krishna.
Hari. Okay, Prabhu. I'll log off, Prabhuji.
Okay,
Thank you so
Prabhuji.
much. Hari Bol.
Sounds good. Thank you, Hari Krishna.